Who are the top 3 champions in Marvel Realm of Champions I believe you should focus on when picking up the game? Okay, so something to bear in mind, this is very much a personal opinion, but this is based on things that I found very easy with certain champions or champions in general when it comes to either ones that play very close to enemies and effectively like tanks, those that create distance based on ranged attacks, and those that place stuff down on the field like Sorcerer Supreme and Storm, where they put things down and they cause damage, or let's call them ranged or support champions to be exact, but ranged places of things. Also something again to further bear in mind, this has been recorded on 10th of January 2021, which means that by this time, whenever you see this video, things could have dramatically changed, but it will be taken into consideration 1 month in what we get as basic weaponry for different champions, and also the champions that are present at the moment, which at the point of recording this video is Black Panther, Super Soldier, Sorcerer Supreme, Hulk, Iron Legionnaire, Web Warrior and Storm. So those 7 champions. But do bear in mind, I'll probably do an update to this. One of the first really easy champions to focus on is Web Warrior, your Spider-Man effectively of the game. When it comes to the weaponry, it is very much up in the air which one is the preference of choice. For me, I like going with the web shooters. I did for a time try out the Gatling web shooters, but did find that it really lacked an element of damage output meets rooting in place. And even though there is something available with these weaponry, that's just not a thing to kind of like undermine them in any kind of great way. I just found like the SP2 was better on the web shooters as opposed to the Gatling shooters, especially with the SP2 feeling more like a spray, and sometimes the spray wasn't exactly effective. The same thing with the SP3, even though it added more to things like increased attack speed and shock damage projectiles. A lot of the time when you build your Web Warrior, you'll either build it in a certain way that doesn't really amplify stuff. And not to say there's anything against the synergy builds, because I'm sure there will be synergies that amplify, improve, and play into how you play the Gatling shooters. I just don't think very early on you see anything that does help towards that. This is why that I just overly enjoy the way that throwing an SP1 roots something in place and is really effective. And the SP2 is still pretty good at creating decent range, and also I've seen it do amazing amounts of damage. Usually a lot of the time what I seem to do is have all 3 available for me. SP1 in place, one particular champion that I'm close to, SP2 into that champion, and then finish off with an SP3, full rooting in place, and I don't really need to worry about. Also, when it comes to the end attack on the Bodog, I'm finding that the web shooters are better for maximizing damage when you're fighting against the Bodog, and as well creates that distance that I require when I'm facing off against one of the 3 enemies. But as well, up close, I can be as damaging and critically engaging as possible when the Bodog is ready to be hit with the as soon as we've captured. And also, due to the range and distance that I create with my Web Warrior, I found it more easy to push this champion up to defender tier, especially by, you know, creating distance, doing SP1s when needed to, avoiding certain champions like Storm whenever I can, creating distance. Having that double part factor to dashing can mean I can evade away from ice fields being put on the floor, which are going to stop me and render me very ineffective. And also, if I go up against a Hulk that goes unstoppable, at least I can then create distance, watch until the unstoppable expires, and then smash down the enemy with the root in place, and hope that some of my teammates are about to see that. That's one other thing as well. When enemies are trying to retreat back from the Bodog, at least catching one of them off guard when they just hit like a rock or something, you then SP1 in place, SP2 in place, hope your allies are there to maximize that damage on the enemy, making it a 3v2 situation, and that puts the advantage in your court. I've looked towards putting in specialized prep, which is SP2 cooldown, because I love that SP2. It's amazing on range. Like, you can be hitting your light attacks and you won't be hitting enemies. You hit off the SP2 and you've got a little bit more range to it, which I think that's amazing. 1000 cuts, 62 plus 62 light attack power versus foes below 50%. Man, that is so handy when it's right at the very end. You can root someone in place and be hitting off really powerful light attacks when it's like that clutch finish and clutch end. You in the back, plus special power, 40 special power versus distant foes. Great for this champion because it's a distance fighting range champion. patient power while slowed plus 55 special power. Now, I don't personally like being slowed myself, unless it's referring to the enemy, which I do try and slow the enemy, or if I've got a storm on the team, it does slow enemies. But if I'm being personally slowed and say I'll go, right, well, I'll go into a special attack, I leap myself off from the freezing where I've been slowed or times when I've been slowed and just go into a special attack that maybe to someone's close, root them in place, get out of being slowed. I've done a bit more damage than normal, and it goes into smashing the enemy up for doing that to me. Next up, next champion I think is one of the best ones to focus on of the 3 that I've got here, and that's Sorcerer Supreme. Why? When you start off, you get the tome. When you get the tome, you're able to practice with the SP2. And the SP2 starts you off with using your thumb to kind of go like, right, thumb to click on the special and then drag it onto the field of where you want to place it. It's something of a practice, and it's good to practice to be that support champion. So you're putting down the SP2, you're putting it on the field, and you're doing the damage. You've seen it in various videos. I'm probably putting some footage over the top right now of that in action. But you have to be very precise with where you put it down to capture a lot of people in a great circumference. Also, being that support, you can practice to help out your allies. Throwing that SP1 and healing means that you got that circumference. Move your champion in place to gather everybody together. Heal them up. Be that healer that you need to be. And as well with the tome, it's doing the SP3 to shield your allies as well. If you see a Hulk running in and another ally going as well, move up with them. Put the shield on. Help them out. Maximize damage output. And then come back a bit. Survey what's going on, or maybe come in. Maybe even throw off the SP1, then straight after throw off the SP3. You're healing and you're shielding at the same time. A little combo of both. Drop back, SP2, drag it over where the enemies are, and do some multiple attacks. That is something that's very nice. When I was building my Sorcerer Supreme and going forward, I did have to kind of stick with the tome. Even though the other version, the orb, is great, I just found that I needed to protect my allies. I needed to do damage, and I needed to save my colleagues as well as I played. And that's where I kind of feel that you need to play the champion to begin with. Start with the tome and then move on to using the orb. There's amazing players out there with the orb, and I've said personally it's not something for me, but the orb is great for maximizing lots of damage. And it's up to you how you build that champion. If you get some very cool synergies, which you will do, you might say, oh, I'm not getting any synergy gear. As soon as you get one, you'll find that a few more will drop for you, and then you're able to improve, maximize damage, and also maximize your healing. There's even like synergies out there that are able to improve your healing abilities that you're doing for everybody. Me, I am definitely a war mage when it comes to damage output. Yes, I do heal my allies, and yes, I do shield them. That's why I've got the tome. But I'm very much a case of I'm 60% to 80% one way and 20% when it comes to being a support, because I'm supporting by doing damage as much as I'm healing others. So yeah, that's why I enjoy Sorcerer Supreme so much, with getting my kind of like thumb out there and just dropping something that's going to rain pain on the enemy. And also this one's built towards heavy attack. I first of all built coming up from newcomer to warrior, very much centric around damage output, so attack power, light attack power, and then further now I've been about improving my heavy attack as an element here of doing some big burst damage. So that's just how I play the champion. That's what I enjoy, and this is another champion I recommend. More so for the placement side of things. Storm is a similar one, but I think with this champion it allows you to learn about assisting your allies and as well damaging with them. So a little bit of one of two, especially with the SP2. Learning to place things down on the battlefield is something of a skill you need to learn. So look for groupings and look for larger amounts of people in one specific area. Or the other trick is to then look, if you're all going in, if two are going in on one champion, get an enemy out of the field. If you get one champion down, create a 3v2 situation, you will capitalize. That's the main thing. And watch out for movements as well. As any champion would go, it's just having a look. If there's a champion coming around the back that's doing a rogue-like maneuver, then make sure to swipe away from them, dash away from them, or come back close to the Bodok, let the Bodok help you out, or go close to your enemies. And not so close, because you don't want to be hit by another Sorcerer Supreme trying to do the same thing with trying to get the SP2 on you as you group together. But definitely create distance, but be close enough to the battle to change the way that it's going. Get that shield on, get that SP1 going, heal them up, help out. The final champion I recommend, and yep, okay, some of these ones you might have to buy with units. That has changed since the beta. When I did the beta, it was the case you didn't have to buy with units. You just had to grind out to grab them. But look, if you get a chance to grab Hulk, I think Web Warrior you have to buy with units. But I've got all of them, so it's difficult to kind of find out if that's the case. Either way, Hulk, like, it's a great champion. In a tank's perspective, it's difficult to say if he's the #1 tank out there because Super Soldier is highly rated and as well has this great way of going into this kind of like heavy shield attack, which I do love. I need to work on my Super Soldier, but I just feel because Hulk has some really cool elements to him that it does really give you an option to go from one type of tank to a different type of tank. So a lot of the times with Hulk, you are the damage taker. You're just going to be a punching bag. But the thing is, you could punch back hard. And as you're building this champion, health is a big thing to kind of like push for this champion. SP1 is amazing. So Hulk yells in rage and deals crushing damage to adjacent enemies and gains an enrage buff, while enraged Hulk is shielded and unstoppable. So it's just handy if you're being pummeled to death and you're like, right, well, you're getting a mix of it, you're seeing your damage go down, go into the SP1, go unstoppable. Handy for getting yourself out of storms, blizzards, out of various different things that will slow you down. You know, it's great. It's great. You are able to, as well, not take damage whilst in those particular effects and be able to kind of like damage output as well. Now, as for the Gamma Hammer, there's also the Fists. And that's something to work on. Something I'm going to go back to using is the Gauntlets. So the Gauntlets allow you to do some really interesting stuff. I really recommend, and this is really fun, is punching enemies in a certain direction. If you can, it's very difficult to do this, but I've seen it done and it's really effective. Where you're able to punch champions out of, say, the capture circle and get the capture. So I've seen 2-on-1 situations where people have been like got a Hulk and they've smashed 2 champions out from the opposing team as a 2-on-1 situation. Got the capture and then went and smacked the enemy's Bodok. It's amazing when you see that. But they can be really effective as well for punching out circles of larger circles and smaller circles. But also, if you time it well, you might be able to punch them towards your Bodok and find they're being spanked by your Bodok. It's an incredible thing to see. But there's some great Hulk players out there, and the Gauntlets are definitely fantastic. And that is with the Hulk Smash. There is the Gamma Bomb. Leaps through the air and slams crushing damage to all enemies in target areas. So that does a great amount of damage as well. I would say when you see if you're going up against this and you see the circles coming to below you, if you can dash, just get out of the way. Usually it's best to kind of like go a little bit forward or a little bit to the side. Back is always a debatable thing because you'll be going towards your Bodok and that may send you out the capture circle. So do watch out for that. But that's the thing. Going back to Hulk's purpose on the battlefield is being the punching bag. And being the punching bag, you have to rely on your other teammates to do damage with you. There is a big debate as to how you build a champion, but I would say synergies as much as possible. You can see like I've got a load of synergies on my Hulk. I've just started reworking my Hulk as well. And especially with him being about taking damage. With while stunned, gain battle armor, gain armor, gain 106 melee resist, projectile resist, health, armor, you know, it's there. It's a stonkingly good synergy. It just needs for me to kind of like work on it a bit more, kind of upgrade a few things before I take it back into battle and start like upgrading some stuff. But he is ready to go out there and take some damage. You will be the forefront. You will go front. But I would probably say with the Hulk, watch what your allies are doing. Don't go in alone and find that nobody's come with you. Especially because the bots sometimes, like, man, they're so stupid. You see Hulk bots run towards enemies, and a lot of the time, if they're going up against ranged champions, this is a problem because you need to get them to come out. And that's the thing. You're going to have to wait until they come out of that circle in order, when that circle shrinks, then you can start doing some damage. But that's the biggest problem. If it's ranged champions against you, which is very much kind of like front and melee and tanking, man, it's tough. You have to be patient, even though you're a Hulk, and get them to come out. Unless, watch your allies. If your allies go with you, then, man, if you commit, it should be good. Get that SP1 rocking. Get that unstoppable. Start doing some damage. SP2 a few falls if you got the Gamma Hammer. or it's a case of punching them back. If you punch them back towards the Bodok, when the circle is coming in, you will end up being able to capture and get towards the Bodok. It doesn't really matter about like killing them off, it's just a case of winning by smashing the Bodok. But yeah, watch out what your allies are doing. Don't go too deep, too fast, and find that you've not got any support, because that turns it into a 3-on-1 situation. Take your time, watch the battlefield, watch how it plays out, and as well, if you've got a Sorcerer Supreme on your side, then you can't lose. That's also a good thing. So yeah, look out for that. And if you're coordinated enough, you can get your healing and shield by the Sorcerer Supreme, do a lot of damage yourself, and find that you're a solid unit of a team fighting. Now yes, this video is just focused on those 3, and that's what it's meant to be. Just 3 champions to focus on to get to Defender, and then start looking at others. And the reason I haven't chosen any of the others is that I feel Iron Legionnaire only really gets good when he gets the drones. Black Panther really requires you to know about how to be more roguey and stealth-like, especially because I see so many people just running in with Black Panther and getting killed off too easily and barely surviving and not really learning how to play that champion and being, again, more of a rogue and going off on their own. So I need to be more specific on the guide for that. And yeah, those are the reasons I've chosen those 3. They're just very easy to get on with and understand, and allow you to have more survivability. But yes, that's been the video. Thanks very much for watching, and see you very soon. Bye bye.